We are back. The White Lotus, Season 2, in Sicily. The Tanya McQuadcast, Who's Gonna Die, Death Draft, Round 2. How do I turn this audio down? Hey everyone, it is so good to be back. We are back. We love a binge. How's it going, y'all? Feels like just yesterday we were here for Season 1. We are back for Season 2 to talk the White Lotus, make some predictions, see who's going to win this season. I want to get right to the draft. I'm so excited for the draft, but I guess let's talk a little bit about opening thoughts first. We love a binge. I guess I'll throw it over to Gia. Gia, any opening thoughts on the White Lotus Season 2?
I am so excited for the rest of this season. I feel like there was enough to draw me in with the first season of the White Lotus, but I think they're getting into a little more of a camp season here, which I really enjoy. And especially the fact that it's definitely going to be emphasizing gender wars and like everything that goes into presumably like white heteronormativity. And I'm just like very excited to see where they go with that. I think that this is a show that really knows what it is and who it's poking fun at. So I'm just very excited to see where they're going. And I'm very intrigued by this cast. I feel like I don't know where the directions we're getting with everyone, but I have some ideas and I think it'll be very interesting to see the progression because I am assuming that everyone that I liked in the first few episodes are not going to be the same people that I like by the end of the season as well, except for Tanya, because Tanya's like indelible. She must reign supreme. So that's just always going to be true.
Emmy award-winning Tanya. Yeah.
Yes.
So we know that we have multiple deaths. Mike White kind of bailed me out. We knew that we wanted to do a fantasy draft for Season 2. We didn't know until recently whether any characters were going to die. So we devised like a scoring system that we no longer need to use because now we know there are going to be some deaths. So just like we did for Season 1, we will be having a death draft to try and predict which characters. It's not just one, it's maybe two, maybe more than two, maybe three, maybe four characters who will not make it through this Season 2 alive. Just like Season 1, in the very first scene, we saw a body bag and then heard from Rocco as he was sharing the unfortunate news with Valentina that I think the quote was, he said, multiple guests have been killed or have died. I'll have to go back and check the exact quote. Now, who counts as a guest, I guess, is something I've been thinking a lot about, and whether there could be deaths that are non-White Lotus hotel guests, I think is something that we'll see play out. We've seen most of the characters in the first episode. That's all we've seen so far. As we are recording this podcast, we are in between episodes 1 and 2. Unlike last year when we recorded this right before the finale and had 5 episodes to go by. But all that being said, JD, you're going to have the first overall pick. What are your thoughts? How did you approach your prep for this draft?
I tried really hard to try to analyze everything that I could, but I just kept thinking myself in circles. I thought I had really solid theories last season. I ended up being wrong. So I'm just gonna wing it this time. You know, I can't do any worse than no points. So I'm ready to just fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, I have no idea where the season's going to go. So I think that's really the only strategy. I'm excited to see it play out. Last year, we spun a wheel to decide the draft order. Somehow I got the first pick. I picked Armand. That played out. Somehow. So to be fair, let's reverse it this year. I'll go last. So it'll be JD going first. It'll be Gabby going second, Gia third, and then I'll pick fourth and snake back. And we'll do that for 16 picks, teams of 4 apiece. We will have a wild card option if you want to take, anybody who is not a named character that might pop up and appear later. That is an option. And the 3 characters who we know don't die will not be available. So that's Daphne, who opened the season and stumbled upon a body in the water. And I will say, I've rewatched that opening scene a couple of times, and I think Daphne's reaction was genuine. I guess there is a possibility that, she was acting as if she'd had a great vacation. She was raving about the hotel to 2 unnamed American guests. We have names for them, but I don't know. If any of the members of her party are the ones who meet their demise, then she would have to know about it, right? So there is a possibility. Maybe she was lying. Maybe she intentionally stumbled upon a body to have an alibi. I don't really know. Gabby, what do you think? Where's your head at as we head into this draft?
I mean, she did watch a lot of Dateline. She knew exactly how to kill somebody while scuba diving. She detailed that out really quickly in one of the first scenes that we heard her talk. So I think that she has it in her to do the deed.
Husbands killing wives, wives killing husbands, unplugging the scuba tank. Yeah, definitely drop some suspicious hints in there as we got to know her past that opening scene. All right, guys. Any other opening thoughts or hopes for this season before we get into our picks?
I genuinely do hope that Daphne gets to live out her fantasy and murder someone. I would love for her to be responsible for someone's demise in here, unless it's Tanya, in which case Daphne is dead to me.
That's what I feel about Aubrey Plaza. Don't touch Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, don't touch Aubrey Plaza either. I'm developing a list of who can't die.
Yeah. Tanya was in our Hall of Fame from last season. It's time to add some new faces there.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know if there's going to be a season 3, but can you do a season 3 without Tanya? I guess that's one of the questions we got to think about as we get into this. So let's do it. Let's get into this.
I refuse to take the risk of no Tanya.
I had Tanya last year. It was a late pick. I think none of us really thought Tanya was going to meet her demise last season. But if she wants to get that second Emmy for this role, how do you top last season? Maybe she does need some big drama and a big death scene. I don't know. Somebody's going to wind up with her, most likely. And the first selection belongs to you, JD. JD, you are on the clock.
All right. So I'm going to go a little left here. I came in thinking that I was going to take one option, but I think I can hold out and maybe get it on the second round. So instead, I am going to pick up Bert DiGrasso. There's one scene that really stuck out to me this first episode, and it was when Harper, Ethan, right? That's his name. And then Cameron and Daphne were all checking out their rooms. And Valentina, I think, is describing one of the busts that are in the room and tells the whole story about how Amor comes to Sicily, seduces a young girl, and then the young girl finds out that the Amor was married with children, and she cuts his head off. So I think we're being set up for the fall of some patriarch due to some sort of infidelity. I think Bert fits the bill perfectly. I mean, we see him flirting with almost every woman that he encounters this first episode. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it might be a little too on the nose to just have that telegraphed in the very first episode, but I also thought Armand dying was too on the nose, and look at what happened. So I'm not going to psych myself out of any of my options this time.
Well, he's already falling downstairs, potentially concussed. He's, I think, the oldest character. So I did a solid pick. I had him high on my list. Yeah. Any other Bert thoughts? Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you wanted us to give our own thoughts on the other people's draft picks. I do like this pick. I think that if we're thinking of on the nose picks, then Bert's definitely one of the higher ones for me. Maybe not the highest, but Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I think that's a fair first pick to get, especially now that we know there's multiple deaths happening. I feel like picking at least one of the DeGracios is probably a safe bet.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced he's one of the deaths. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I think Bert is one of those.
Well, he's the only one not available to you at number 2, Gabby.
So I don't want him to be the death, but I think that it's going to be Ethan. Ethan just came into a lot of money. He sold his company. His wife is a lawyer. She can get away with a lot of things. And the group that they're hanging out with, the previews of the next episode made me think like he's going to get himself in some trouble. So there's very good reasons why he could be the one to die.
So do you think Daphne was faking her reaction in that opening scene, or what do you think is Daphne's role going to be if it is Ethan? Is she aware of it or not?
I don't think she is aware of it if it's Ethan. But that could be why she's so shocked that she wouldn't.
And I guess I could see that. Maybe the couples get in a fight. Ethan and Harper say they're leaving, and then something happens maybe after Daphne thinks she's left. I could see a scenario where she's genuinely reacting to seeing a body that she recognizes, or it could be a different body in the water, and maybe Ethan's dead elsewhere, and he's one of the other guests that Rocco is referring to. So definitely a prime target, having come into a lot of money recently, as you said. So I like that pick. Both Ethan and Bert were high up on my list as well.
And also, why was Daphne alone in that opening scene? That really sparked something to me, which is why I went the Ethan route.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to rule out the world where Daphne was involved somehow if Ethan is one of the dead bodies. Again, she watches Dateline. Husbands murdering wives, wives murdering husbands. I don't think prior to this vacation that Daphne had much of a connection with either Ethan or Harper. So it could have been just like a general shock of seeing a body of someone you know. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like this is also like a very solid pick. Ethan was high up there for me as well.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone got a chance to watch the scenes from like kind of like pieces of what to do throughout what to expect throughout the season, like the little teasers and everything. But it does seem like at some point Daphne and Harper are going to bond over maybe like some underlying resentments towards their husband or like some dissatisfactions in their marriage. So I'm definitely not ruling out Daphne being involved in any deaths, especially if Cameron ends up being one of the people that dies. But while I don't know what motive she would have to be connected to Ethan's death, I'm not ruling it out as a way of a possibility of like this is one of the deaths in there. I think Ethan is kind of a high possibility of it. We're getting a lot of focus on him and we're seeing a lot of motives of like why it could be him or some of the storylines that are going to develop throughout the season. And I won't be too shocked if it is Ethan, even though he's one of the more likable people so far.
Well, Gia, how you feeling at number 3 here?
I am very excited because my first pick has not been taken yet. There's a couple that I was wavering between, and I don't really have a lot to base it on for who I think will die, but I have someone just keeps sticking out for me that I feel like I need to grab before KP grabs them. And I am going to go with Greg for my first pick. Now, let's be honest. I know. This is a quite the hot commodity here. I'm kind of surprised. So, Greg sucks. Let's be real. Tanya deserves better, even though Tanya herself is a mess. But we're starting to see more of why Greg sucks this season, whereas he came in very late in season 1. But the things that we do know about him is that apparently him and Tanya now are married, which I don't know if it's like a formal marriage or if they're saying they're married or what happened. I don't even know how much time has passed between season 1 and season 2 of the White Lotus. Like is this a year from Tanya stay at the White Lotus? Has it been a few years where they've been going to all of these different White Lotuses? So I feel like there's still some gaps in there that I want to know a little bit about, but he's being very gaslighty towards Tanya and like very rude and aggressive. And I feel like that we are going to be led to believe that like Tanya has some type of snap at some point in the series, and whether that kind of like rallies some of the women characters together or what happens. But also in season 1, Greg had a condition that we don't really know a whole lot about, but we know that his health is not great. And he's hiding something from Tanya, probably a few things, but I just feel like there are so many things pointing in the direction of Greg not surviving the season, possibly an attempt to like cover up, like he's gonna, some of his secrets are gonna get revealed, or even maybe his health fails him. I just feel like there's so many possibilities, and the likelihood of Greg surviving this season to me feels low.
Yeah, I like the pick, and I probably would have taken him with one of these next 2 picks. So your intuition was correct. There's just so many different ways it could happen. And I think, although sometimes the way in which it plays out is a surprise, but Mike White, as a creator, often gives the audience, what they're rooting for or what they want. And I think Greg is a character that, just being positioned as such a villain in episode 1 makes it seem more likely that it could be a death like earlier in this season. That, I don't know if we're rooting for any characters to die necessarily based on what I've seen so far, but we're not necessarily rooting for a whole lot more of Greg on our TV screens based on the way he's been acting and treating Tanya. So I could definitely see it. And didn't see much coughing in episode 1, but it was he mentioned like having some kind of terminal illness in the first season. I think it's been 3 years or 2 or 3 years since season 1. And I don't know if he's recovered or if he's just doing better, but love the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the status of the illness is super ambiguous, which is why I have a bunch of question marks around Greg. And like he's hiding something. Greg is absolutely hiding something.
At least one thing. I feel like he's hiding multiple things from Tanya.
So I feel like a possible route this season could go is we slowly start seeing the true Greg, and that all resolves in him lying face forward into the ocean. Who knows?
All right.
Speaking of hiding things, I think he hid those 2 macaroons.
I also think yes.
I like that.
I agree. I do think he hid those macaroons because men are what? Trash. And he seems like he's being very gaslighty. He's making comments on Tanya's weight and how is she supposed to lose weight if she's eating macaroons. And like, she's on vacation, Greg. Chill the fuck out. And Tanya does not seem to be concerned about her weight personally. So I don't know what Greg's bitching about, but he sucks. And I'm putting it out into the universe that he died, and he died because Tanya found out he hid the macaroons.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that unfold that way specifically.
I love that for her.
Yeah. We need a way to follow up the Emmy winning season, and that would definitely give her plenty of substance to work with. So I love the pick. I guess it makes my next couple of selections a little bit easier, having these 3 off the board. All right. I'm going to, for my first pick, go with Dominic, Michael Imperioli's character. I'm kind of feeling similarly to what you had said, JD, where getting the backstory of those busts and this, legend of the local Sicilian woman who chopped off the head of a cheating married man. And I think Dominic is still married to his wife at this point, even though they're estranged and obviously not on good terms. We see him meeting up with Lucia, a sex worker, at the end of the first episode. So he's kind of in a similar position to the victim in that legend. He's definitely making some bad choices. I don't know if we want to. Is it okay to get into Sopranos spoilers on this?
Yeah.
I
Has
think
everyone
so.
seen
Go
Sopranos? Okay.
I have not seen Sopranos, but I don't care
I
about being
don't
spoiled
plan on it.
It's been so
All right.
long.
It's not on my list of things to do
Yeah,
anytime soon.
same.
If anybody watching this, listening to this, doesn't want to be spoiled in Sopranos or a Sopranos plot point, skip ahead 20 seconds. But Michael Imperioli's character, Chris Moltisanti, dies in The Sopranos. It is one of my least favorite plot points in The Sopranos, and I was rooting against that happening. So I get to kind of flip the script here and root for it to happen. It seems like he dies in every single movie and TV show he's on as well, whether it's Goodfellas or what have you. So like he's definitely an actor who can pull off a big dramatic death scene. He's making bad choices. That this DeGrasso family worries me. So I'm gonna go Dominic.
Oh my God, is he like the Sean Bean of like Italian
Yeah.
films,
He's
Italian
Sean
American
Bean,
films?
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, he has to die now just for the consistency.
Yeah, honestly.
This was, if I wasn't picking Greg, I was going to pick Dominic. I feel like, and also again for some of the reasons that JD was saying is that earlier about Bert. I feel like one of the patriarchs of the DeGracios is in that death count, and we know, although we can kind of assume a lot of stuff about Bert from what we have seen so far. We know that Dominic has not been a great husband, assuming there is some kind of infidelity involved here, and just like making some educated guesses and everything. So it kind of lines up with the story that we've heard, but I would be shocked if one of them did not die.
Yeah, I think a storyline that I can see unfolding with Dom specifically is like the concept of getting too greedy. I feel like we already seen it a little bit this episode where he's trying to make amends with his wife, but at the same breath calling Lucia up to his room and then sticking Bert with his son when his son, wants to do all these things and enjoy his own vacation, and then sort of just like having things be his way for his family without any sort of like resistance being accepted. So I wonder, maybe it's like a story of like Icarus flying close to the sun, or maybe one of his fellow family members, even someone not outside the family but still staying at the White Lotus, gets a little too fed up with all his antics.
Yeah, so I'm rooting for it, or I guess now I am. And along those same lines, for my second pick, I'm going to go with Lucia. Now, Valentina will tell you she is not a hotel guest, but I could see Rocco not necessarily knowing that detail as he's reporting the news in that opening scene. And just along the same lines, I just feel like, it's sex work is a dangerous profession. I feel like, the situation that both she and Dominic are in at the end of episode 1 so closely mirrors that legend that we heard about. So I'm worried for her. And I'm going to go with Lucia as the first pick of round 2.
I went back and forth with this one for Lucia because I don't want to believe that Mike White will be doing like the dead sex worker trope in this unless it's done in such a specific way, like in how the White Lotus, we kind of expected Armand's death, and it made sense with the storyline, even though he is one of the confirmed gay characters in that season, but it feels like a story that falls in line with like the privileged getting away with literal murder in that case. So part of me doesn't want to believe that it's going to be her because of that, but I feel like of a lot of the women involved in the death draft, that Lucia is probably one of the people very likely to die in. It looks like we have a couple very violent ocean scenes coming up from the scenes to look forward to in the season. So especially with her position, I could see a lot of scorned guests happen, coming as a result. But I have faith in Mike White that it wouldn't be that apparent. Unless it was for like a specific reason to kind of play into this commentary on privilege that he seemed to be spinning with season 1.
Yeah, it does seem a bit too obvious and a bit too much falling into that trope. But going with the obvious pick in Armand worked out in season 1, so I'm going to stick with the strategy that worked. And I don't know, I'm worried for the two of them. So I'm going to go with Dominic and Lucia and pass it back to you, Gia, for your round 2 pick.
Okay. One thing that's bothering me, please fix the draft pick for Greg, because you put Greg instead of Gia.
Oh, all right.
Which I typed in the private chat, but then you didn't see it. But yes.
I'm on it.
Thank you. Okay. So actually my second pick has not been taken yet. So thank you, KP, for being so kind. I feel this could go either way, but I'm going to bet on it, and I'm going to draft Cameron. I feel like, again, this is a little too on the nose, but I feel like, again, like we've been saying, Armand was too on the nose, and that was the death that we had confirmed. And we know that people are that at least the majority of the people that die are going to be guests. Like that, we haven't heard anything to suggest that it would be a staff member at this White Lotus. He is a husband, so it falls in line of like the theme, the myth that we heard at the beginning. And I would, from what we have seen from him, I would bet a lot of money that he is one of he commits a couple infidelities during this trips. And since Daphne, the Dateline obsessed character, is his wife, this almost feels like too perfect of a guess. And as I learned from last season with what was the guy's name that we knew didn't die right away?
Shane.
Shane, yeah.
So like one of the things that I feel like works against it is that if we're going off of like what we learned from season 1, it's that like the biggest assholes are probably going to live, and we're going to be very infuriated about it. And I feel like Cameron is not supposed to be a character that we enjoy, or that we want to emulate. So it could go either way, but I think of the people left, he's probably a more likely candidate than some.
One way I can see this going is people were so frustrated that it wasn't Shane who died last season, that Mike White is sort of like retroactively being like, okay, I get it. I'll kill the privileged white guy this time. And I would enjoy it. Honestly, I do think that Cameron is in that Shane spot where we are supposed to dislike him, that we are supposed to like constantly be poking holes in his little like bubble of privilege. So that'll be a fun activity to do throughout the season. And I do think that there's stuff set up between Ethan and between Daphne, at least in this first episode, where something, or even Harper as well, where there's tension there's like a foundation of tension, let's call it.
Yeah, we're definitely not supposed to. And I don't know how they redeem that character going forward. It doesn't seem like we're supposed to. Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot of reasons for me to believe that it will be him, and then other ones that are saying, but like remember the show that you're watching, it's not going to be that simple. So I feel like of the people that are currently left that we are going through, that this seems like one of the more likely candidates, considering this has been billed for a while as a men versus women season. So this will be interesting to see how it goes.
All right, Gabby, back to you.
Okay, so my top characters all got picked. So now I have to play it by ear. So again, on to a man that's cheating on his spouse. I think Giuseppe can fall into that. He was trying to pick up Mia as a sex worker. He said he had to be home by midnight, which he probably has a family he has to get back to. So I think maybe it might be a long shot, but I think it could be Giuseppe.
Maybe Giuseppe makes like multiple advances towards Mia, and maybe it's Mia who hits a breaking point. I can definitely see that happening.
I'd love to see that.
I was also thinking that Mia could be involved in my theory about Ethan as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely bad vibes from Giuseppe, the jazz singer. And we saw Mia's strong reaction to his unwanted advance in the opener, which I think is not, it had to be, I think everything we saw in the opener was foreboding of things to come. So there's definitely some clues there, and I like the pick.
No, I think this is a pretty good pick. I like, on one hand, I don't feel like Giuseppe isn't technically a hotel guest, but also I don't know if Rocco would know the difference, especially if there's multiple deaths happening, that like this person is or isn't a hotel guest. So I'm trying not to read too much into this idea that it's only the hotel guests that are dying, but it's definitely interesting to see. And I think that what we have seen from Giuseppe, that if he's not a one-off character, like if we do see more of him later in the season, he's definitely a likely candidate.
Yeah.
All right, JD, back to you for 2 picks.
All right. I've gone back and forth on this next one. But I do think I am going to pick up Mia. Kind of for most of the reasons that who picked up, most for the same reasons that you picked up Lucia, KP. I feel like we're getting the two of them as a package. So I figure if they're doing like a package deal, I might as well get myself in on that. But as far as narratively so far, I do think that Mia is, I would say that Mia is the more complex of the two between her and Lucia. Like, we see her, the first time we see her, she's going through a breakup. She's not entirely sure of what her next steps are going to be. We see Lucia be a lot more confident in herself and her sexuality, whereas we don't really get the same from Mia. So maybe further down the line, there is some turmoil within this umbrella of men versus women, of Mia trying to deal with like her sexuality and her identity as a woman. Yeah, it's kind of like a crackpot theory I have, but in my head, I can see a world where this happens. So I'm going to stick to it for now.
I actually think Mia is a more likely candidate to die of the trio, honestly, just because of what you said, JD, about how like she doesn't seem as sure of herself as Lucia, and I can see it going in a direction of like, oh, like the person that didn't really want to be here, or the person that was second guessing everything is the one that pays the price, as opposed to the person that went all in. So I think Mia's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I was very on the fence between Mia and Lucia for those reasons. I could see her being positioned more as the point of view character as the drama unfolds between the trio. So that's why I went with Lucia, but we shall see and agree. I think whatever's going to unfold, they're going to be probably in it together, and we shall see. All right, so it's now round 3. We're halfway through. We have got, just to look at who's on the board, we've still got Alby, Harper, and Portia and Tanya of the guests who we saw in episode 1. And then for other characters, there are Isabella, who works at the White Lotus. There's Jack and Quentin, who are two guests who we haven't seen yet, British guests who I assume are going to appear in episode 2 or at some point, but because they're guests, it makes them contenders, I guess. Then we've got the wild card pick of anybody else, and we've also got Abby, who is voiced by Laura Dern. We don't know if we'll get a Laura Dern appearance in the show beyond just her voice, but she's playing the role of Dominic's estranged wife. So JD, for your second to last pick to kick us off in round 2, what are you thinking?
Yeah. So I think my strongest theory is that a man and a woman dies. So just to try to cover my bases as much as I can, I'm going to go for the wild card again. I think we can't rule out the fact that all 16, 17 of these characters stay alive. The reaction that we see from Daphne in the first episode, or in the opening scene, it could have just been genuine horror of a body. She may or may not have recognized it. With this pick, I'm kind of putting my money on she doesn't recognize this body. But I was wrong with the wildcard pick once. I'm willing to be wrong with it again. I'm sticking with it. And yeah, with the multiple deaths and with the whole men versus women commentary especially, I think I'm predicting that the resolution that we get is that no one wins. So I think that most of all is informing my wildcard pick.
It's definitely a great value pick for a couple of reasons. Just like last season, I mean, you're getting basically 7 billion people for the price of one, the 7 billion people who aren't among
Playing
the
the
19.
odds.
Yeah. Plus, unlike season 1, the unnamed characters who appear in the show include Angelina and Cara. So I don't know if we're going to see them appear again, but at least you're getting them on your team, which is another upgrade for this selection compared to the previous year. So I like the pick, and definitely am ready for unexpected twists and unexpected characters who we didn't see coming to pop up over the course of these next six episodes.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a good pick. And I really strongly believe that there are going to be other characters that play bigger roles in the later episodes that we're not even thinking of. I mean, we really haven't seen a lot of the hotel staff either, like, develop personalities the same way that we saw some other staff members have personalities in some of the later episodes of the White Lotus, so of the first season. So this is definitely a possibility, and I like the pick. It's a good pick.
Speaking of Angelina and Cara, do you think we get any other former survivors on this season?
Ooh.
Or do we maybe even flash forward to continue on in the timeline where we saw Angelina and Cara and kind of continue on from that point and get a little more of them? Any predictions about the survivor element to season 2? Are we done with it, or is there more to come?
I would love if we kind of got the death reveal mid-season and then pick up from Angelina and Cara, whatever their characters' names are, like their stay at the White Lotus. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some more survivors, I think.
Give me Natalie Cole. Where is she?
Yeah, exactly.
If you told me what survivor players from any season would be a White Lotus guest, Natalie Cole
100%.
is my immediately first option.
100%.
Immediately. I can't think of someone more esteemed to be welcoming into the White Lotus. They pay her for her to stay there because it is not to her level, is what I am saying. But yeah. I think that Mike is really proud of his time on Survivor, and he mentioned it in his Emmy speech as well, that he was on Survivor. So I feel like if we are lucky enough to get the White Lotus for more seasons, I think that is a little Easter egg that he is really excited about as well. And I think he likes playing along with the Survivor fans as like the audience that is excited about this show. So I can definitely see that being a possibility. And I would be shocked if we get a third season, but no Survivor player cameos.
It warms my heart to see how much Mike White loves Survivor to this day.
Yes. What cracks me up is that he was on another reality TV show beforehand, and he never mentioned it.
He fared a little better on Survivor.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. But it's just like, and it's the same network and everything. So you would think that like he is a multifaceted like reality TV star even before he went on Survivor. But oh my God, it was so funny.
Well, if we do get a Natalie appearance or any other Survivor appearance, they will be on Team JD. And I think that brings us back to Gabby.
All right. I know I said I don't want anybody to touch Aubrey Plaza, but I'm going to go with Harper. There is something off-putting between Harper and Cameron. Why did Cameron really invite these two there? Knowing that she's a lawyer, his company gets all those claims. Maybe he wants her to help him, but she refuses, and he does not like that. That's my thinking around it. And he seems like the kind of guy that doesn't take no for an answer.
I'm down with it.
And I feel like we're similar to how we had some of the characters from last season that I feel like we connect with a little bit more, or like the guests at the White Lotus, some had a little bit more empathy for others than some of the guests that we just hated immediately that had no redemption throughout the season. But I have a feeling we will hate most of these characters the same way that we had something to hate about most of the guests from season 1. So I would not be surprised if Harper dips into some, like some seedy waters herself throughout this season. They're definitely waiting for, definitely a possibility, definitely something that to watch out for. And I think her storyline is one of the ones that I'm most excited for.
It's really interesting to see Aubrey Plaza play a different kind of character, and that's something I'm very excited about.
Yes.
Definitely a lot of dimensions already to her character. And I like that you paired it with the Ethan pick, because I could see a scenario where the two of them potentially wind up in a bad situation together, whether it's in opposition of the other couple or in some other scenario where they try to leave the vacation. And I like it. I could see them both running into a bad situation together. All right, round 3, Gia, what are you thinking?
I was going to pick Harper, Gabby, if you didn't. So this is what I get. Now I will say that I did not know, I had no strategy going into it, and I had all of these theories the last season that did not transpire. So based off of nothing besides hope, I guess. I don't really want to call it hope because I currently don't really want this character to die, but I'm going to go with Alby. I feel like
Stole my pick.
last season I drafted Quinn, who was the youngest of the Mossbacker family, kind of as a last resort because I just didn't think any of the other characters were going to die that were left in that draft. But I didn't think they would kill someone so young. And Quinn was, I think he's supposed to be like 16 or 17 or something. He's supposed to be very young.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it that being the route that he went. Alby is a little older. I just have a feeling I'm going to hate him by the end of the season. Like, he's supposed to be the sense and compassion of the DeGrasso bunch, but I have a feeling like we get to hear that he's a Stanford graduate. His mom seems to think that he's a very sensitive soul. Whether that's actually true, I guess we will find out. But I have a feeling he's going to be our what was Sydney Sweetie's character last season?
Oh gosh,
I am worse. I don't remember his name.
I'm looking.
I got season 1.
Olivia. Yeah. So I feel like he's going to be the Olivia of this season, in that, like, she was very self-righteous and very against her parents' less PC views, I will say, based on things that we were hearing. But then when her friend kind of turned the tables on her and was telling her to look at all the ways that she has not been a great person or that she has a lot of privilege, then she didn't really want to hear that. She always thought of herself as the good one out of her family. And I think that while we can definitely see that Alby is the one we are probably supposed to like the most out of the DeGrasso men, I really I have a feeling he's going to do something or act a certain way about different happenings that will make me not like him. And I could see him having this fall from grace that results in his death. And I don't think he's so young that he's off the table for a death pick.
Yeah, I was hoping Alby would drop to me. I was surprised he was still available for your pick there, Gia, just because, again, bad vibes from all the DeGrassos. They're already entangled with, this underworld of Sicily, with Dominic. We know he's in contact with at least one sex worker, and I just feel like it's not going to take much for that whole family to get pulled into some sort of dangerous situation. So like the pick. And I think in the post-show recaps draft on their podcast, Alby was the number 1 overall pick. So definitely a good value here in round 3.
Really?
Yeah.
That is very interesting. I can see why, but oh yeah, he was the first pick. I'm looking at it now, but I mean, I'm surprised, but also I guess not. I just think there are some more likely candidates than Alby, but
Yeah.
maybe that's why they picked him.
I was about to say the exact same thing. I do see a world where it is Alby, or at least one of them is Alby. But I think we got so much more from other parties this first episode that their demises seem just a little more likely.
Well, this puts me in a tough spot. I don't really, all the characters who I've been hoping for have been taken, and I can't even take the wild card pick here. So gonna roll the dice a bit. Now in the post-show recaps draft, Portia was a high pick. I think she was also a first-round pick. And I'm worried for Portia as well. I definitely don't know if this is going to be a great trip for her necessarily. But I also don't know if I foresee her being one of the casualties. I'm going to roll the dice and go with one of the 2 guests we haven't seen yet. So that's Quentin, who's the older British uncle, and then Jack is his nephew. I'm gonna go with Quentin. He's a guest. He's a patriarch, potentially. And I guess that's my reasoning. Hopefully I get lucky on this one. Back to you, Gia.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about the guests that we haven't seen yet. And that makes sense because we haven't seen them yet. So I don't know anything about them to really determine if they have died or like if they're going to be the deaths. So it's hard to pick, but I don't know. I will say that I don't want this person to die, but I want her in my draft so she can stay safe with me because I have a feeling I'll just be wrong about everything. So I will take Tanya McCoy-Hunt as my pick. I think that if we aren't getting Jennifer Coolidge next season, then if we're not getting Jennifer Coolidge next season, then there is a strong likelihood that they're going to end with Tanya's death in some devastating way that I'll never get over. But I think that everyone has noticed the power of Jennifer Coolidge in the White Lotus universe. And I don't know. I think that having Greg in there, I see him more likely to die and then Tanya getting out of it and kind of going to whatever her next adventure is or having another mourning period over someone that doesn't deserve her grief, like how she had with her mother last season. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about any of the other picks that are left. I think like she's probably the likely candidate of our remaining players, but also I was very wrong in all my reasonings last season and was actually very convinced that Armand was not going to be the death. I thought that KP was crazy for picking him. So by that logic, all of my picks are wrong and Tanya will be alive and well and living the best life that she deserves.
I will
So
be
I think
devastated if it's Tanya.
We all will be. Now, I think I messed this up. I had 2 picks. I only picked Quentin.
Oh, I thought you were picking
But I wasn't going to
Portia.
pick Tanya anyway.
I
think I will pick Portia.
Oh, okay.
I will take Portia. Yeah. So I'll go Quentin and Portia, and I'll leave the other British guest, Jack, on the board. I wasn't going to pick Tanya anyway. I would hate to see her go. I think you're right. I mean, I definitely won't be shocked to see Mike White give her as many big dramatic scenes as possible in this season. And certainly if we're not going to get Tanya McQuad Hunt in season 3, you know, I could see a big grand dramatic exit in this season being something that we spend some time on. But I want to root for her to come back in season 3. So yeah, I'll go with Portia. So that rounds out my team. I haven't been taking good notes here. I've got Portia, Quentin, Dominic, and Lucia. And then Gia, you've got Tanya and Cameron, Alby, and Greg. And so Gabby, your last pick is now on the board.
Well, I don't know, because we've only seen a little bit of one. We've only heard the voice of another, and we haven't seen the other one yet. So I think what I'm going to do is go with Isabella. We don't know a lot about her. Could very well be her in the body bag. I'm not sure. Because I don't think Rocco knows exactly who died in the ocean, but just knows that other guests have died. So who knows? Maybe she had a bad run-in with Giuseppe. Maybe she flirted too hard with Cameron. And little Miss Daphne got jealous. I don't know. I'm coming up with theories at this point.
I feel like we got enough of Isabella to start at least formulating potential paths her character could go down. It's a fun thought experiment, I think, because we saw the staff of the White Lotus Hawaii get to a lot of interesting activities. And I think we're going to see something similar this season. I'm actually looking forward to seeing some of the staff antics this season. I mean, we haven't really talked about her because she's confirmed to be alive, but I'm actually really enjoying Valentina. Like, I think she's like the perfect amount of like boss bitch in like the nicest way possible from my standing. And yeah, just trying to being the woman running an entire resort has to be an exhausting job. So I'm sympathizing with Valentina, and I'm right with her whenever she freaks out about something going wrong.
I'm so glad you bring her up. Yeah. Any other Valentina thoughts? How she compares to Armand as our resort manager? What role she might play over the course of this season, knowing that she doesn't die?
What a successor to Armand, because I feel like they both are pretty hot messes, and we're not led to believe that they are put together. Like, I don't think we had that impression of either of them right from the very beginning, but like some of the things that she says, or how she was talking about, I think it was Dominic, like looking so old or something. Like, there were a couple moments where I was like, how are you the head of customer service in like an exclusive resort? But also I love her and I want her to have more storylines centered around her. I'm obsessed. I love a boss bitch.
Oh, when she was yelling in Italian, it just brought me back to my childhood. I remember my grandmother yelling at me like that. What a fast little slut, you know?
I loved also the immediate reaction to the body being discovered in the water. Oh, that's not us. That's not hotel property.
Yeah,
What
it's the
happens in the
ocean.
Arctic Sea?
Yes.
That's all right. Well, we have reached the final pick of this draft. JD, you've already got a team of 7 billion plus. So your choice for the final member
Plus
of your
one.
team is between a guest or someone who we are anticipating will be a guest in Jack, Quentin's nephew, or Abby, Dominic's estranged wife, voiced by Laura Dern. Does she make an appearance? We don't know yet, but that's your choice between Abby or Jack.
I'm going to go with Jack, mostly because I don't want to pick Abby. I don't want to pick Abby for a couple reasons. One, I don't think we'll see we might get like a FaceTime or something from Abby, but I don't think we're going to see her flying to Sicily anytime soon, especially if her estranged husband is there. I get the impression that she wants to be as far away from it as possible. Secondly, the idea of Laura Dern dying is not something that I enjoy. It is something that I would like to avoid. So for those two reasons, I'm steering far away from Abby as I can, and that leaves me with Jack.
I'd hate to gatekeep queerness, on such a public platform, but also I feel like no self-respecting member of the LGBTQ plus community is going to kill Laura Dern and not expect riots in the streets. So
True.
I also stand with you, JD, in that assessment.
Well, she has survived our draft, so that's a good sign. We will find out who among our 16 picks survives this season. We got through it, y'all, in exactly an hour. So we beat our time from last season by like 40 minutes. Not too shabby. Any final thoughts, closing thoughts? How do you feel about your teams? How do you feel about the season? What are you excited for?
I'm feeling good. I like my little team that I have. And I'm excited to see where the season goes. We only had one episode so far. The preview for next week makes me really excited. I really, really love this cast. You got Michael Imperioli, you got Theo James, Aubrey Plaza, returning Jennifer Coolidge, and Hilly Lou Richardson. I just love. So I'm just really excited to see what Mike White has in store for us.
Yeah, as far as my team goes, I'm interested in seeing if I'm right. And if I am right, I'm interested in seeing how I'm right. Because like I said at the top of this, I was winging everything. I feel like I put too much thought into my first time drafting, and I kind of just went the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So I'm interested in seeing how accurate any of our theories are, really. And if nothing else, we are for sure getting another season of The White Lotus. I feel like that first episode has sort of cemented that. Like, Mike White knows what he's doing, and he knows that he's doing it well. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how the season plays out.
Yeah, I love my draft. I think my chances this season are very good. So, and I'm hopeful about a couple of them. So I'm very excited about it. And I'm just very happy that the team came back together for season 2. I think it was it made my day every time there was a new news piece about the White Lotus, and throughout the year just sharing articles with each other in our group chat and stuff. And now it's finally come to fruition because we get to do the death draft again, and it warms my cold frozen little heart. And I'm just very excited for this next season, and it caught my attention right away, which I feel like didn't happen with the premiere of the first season. So I'm very optimistic and very excited for what else Mike has in store.
Yeah, so well said. I think everyone's podcasting by the White Lotus now, right? Rob Sesternino's got on a White Lotus podcast. Bill Simmons is doing a White Lotus podcast. Is these zeitgeist now for season 2. But I think we were maybe the first ones. We were maybe the original White Lotus podcast. We were on it from the jump. And a lot of times you get a show. Yeah, right? You get a show that has a great first season unexpectedly, and they didn't have a second season planned. And then they come back for a season 2, and it can often be diminishing returns when that happens. But I just have such faith in Mike White as a writer and showrunner and in this cast that I think it's going to be great. I'm so excited for it. I love the premiere. I think we got a thrilling ride in store for us. And yeah, so happy that we got the band back together. Looking forward to chatting as we go in the group chat. And we will see if I get to keep my crown or if we crown a new winner for season 2.
Looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much, y'all. Yeah. We will see how it goes. Thank you to anybody who watched this, listened to this. Hope you enjoy season 2 of The White Lotus as well. Let us know what you thought of our picks and our predictions. And yeah, ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
Oh, I missed that. There we go.
Let's try it one more time. Not your fault, JD. My phone alarm went off also. It's okay. It's okay. Second time's a charm.